Hello everyone, I'm Shefali Sharma and today I would be discussing about the provision of maintenance under the Hindu law. Under Hindu law, there are three types of provision regarding maintenance to the wife and husband in certain cases. The first is under the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, second under the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act of 1956, and third is under the CRPC, which is the Code of Criminal Procedure of 1973. Please note that the maintenance under the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 can be claimed by the either spouses. The either spouses, that is both the husband and the wife, are entitled to claim maintenance only under the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955, while under the maintenance provision of the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act of 1956 and under the Code of Criminal Procedure of 1973, only the wife is entitled to claim maintenance and the husband has no such right in order to claim maintenance. Now, starting on with the provisions of the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955. Section 24 and Section 25 of the HMA 1955 deals with the interim maintenance and the permanent maintenance respectively. Section 24 talks about the interim maintenance. There, four things are to keep in mind. First, the court can pass the order for interim maintenance upon the application of either spouses. Okay, and the applicant or the claimant is a person who claims. All right, the claimant will have to prove that she or he has insufficient means or insufficient income in order to maintain himself. All right, and upon the satisfaction of the court can pass the order for interim maintenance. By the word interim, we already understand it means the temporary, all right, interim or temporary maintenance along with the expenses of proceedings. The expenses of proceedings will also include the expenses of proceedings under Section 25. Okay, one important thing to be noted while computing the provisions of interim maintenance is that the conduct or the character of the claimant is immaterial. Okay, for example, Mrs. X is claiming a maintenance against Mr. X. So the conduct of Mrs. X, if she is accused for the charge of adultery or any other matrimonial offences, even then she will be entitled to claim maintenance. The bad conduct of the claimant will not bar himself or herself to go and claim for maintenance under the code, only under the provisions of Section 24 and 25 of HMA. Coming on to Section 25 of HMA, which provides for the permanent maintenance. Under Section 25, the court may pass an order for alimony or permanent maintenance upon the application of either spouses. Okay. Now, while computing the provision of permanent maintenance and while passing the decree of permanent maintenance or alimony, alimony is the financial assistance which is provided from one spouse to another. So, the character and the conduct of the claimant still remains silent under Section 25 as well, but other considerations are to be taken into note. For example, the income and property of the applicant and of the respondent, and the dependencies, if there are any, on the non-claimant. For example, if there are dependent parents or sister or brother, these all factors are to be taken into consideration upon granting the permanent maintenance by the court. One important thing to be noted is that on the death of non-claimant, the order of maintenance comes to an end. That is, I gave you the example. For example, Mrs. X filed for the permanent maintenance against Mr. X and the order is being passed. Then, in case the Mr. X dies, Mrs. X will not be entitled for further maintenance from the parents of Mr. X or all these provisions. No, that is all not allowed. When the non-claimant dies, the order of the maintenance by itself comes to an end. Okay. One more important point is that just because the conduct of claimant is immaterial here, it is not important that a wife, if she is to claim maintenance under the provision of HMA, should be a wife of a valid marriage. No. even a wife out of voidable marriage and even a wife out of void marriage will be entitled to claim maintenance under the provisions of Hindu Marriage Act 1955. Talking about the provisions of the maintenance under Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act of 1956. Under this, a Hindu man is under an obligation to maintain his wife. Under section 18 clause 1, a wife can claim maintenance by living with her husband. Even an unchaste woman who is living with her husband has the right to claim maintenance under section 18 clause 1. But a woman or a wife who ceases to be Hindu has no such right to claim maintenance. Under section 18 clause 2, which provides for separate residence and maintenance, a wife who has a reasonable grounds in order to claim separate residence and separate maintenance can file for the claim under section 18 clause 2. The grounds should be reasonable in order to provide an evident and sufficient cause that why a wife has to live separate with her husband. The grounds can be, for example, if the husband is under an offense of bigamy, or if the husband is doing cruelty which the wife cannot sustain living with her, or if the husband has deserted, or any such reasonable cause. If the wife is able to prove the reasonable clause, she will be entitled to live separately and she will be entitled for separate maintenance without ceasing her right to claim maintenance under these provisions. But if there exists no reasonable cause or no reasonable or justified grounds for her to live separate, this claim will not be accepted. This provision will not be applicable. Also, when you talk about the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act and Hindu Marriage Act, the main difference between the maintenance provision of both is that under the Hindu Marriage Act, I told you, either spouses can claim maintenance, even the wife and the husband can claim maintenance, whereas under Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, only the wife is entitled to claim maintenance. Under the Hindu Marriage Act, a wife from a voidable or even a void marriage can claim maintenance, but under HAMA, only a wife out of a valid marriage is entitled to claim maintenance. One more important difference is that under the Hindu Marriage Act, a order of maintenance can only be passed after the decree of nullity or the decree of restitution of conjugal of right, or when the decree of judicial separation or any such matrimonial cause has been passed. But under the Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, a decree of maintenance can be passed also with a wife living with her husband. Now, the maintenance provision under the Code of Criminal Procedure is mentioned under section 125 of CRPC. It states that any man having sufficient means neglects or refuses to maintain his wife, who is incapable or insufficient to maintain herself, can be ordered by the court to maintain the wife. The court may pass such interim orders or such order for maintenance, including the expenses of proceeding against such man to maintain the wife. Earlier, the amount of allowances was rupees 500 per month, but now there is no such limit. The amount of maintenance can be computed on the basis of the standard of living, on the basis of income, and keeping in mind the other factors which are relevant for the computing the maintenance amount. Very important thing under section 125, which differs it from the Hindu Marriage Adoption Act and Hindu Marriage Act, is that under this, the word wife only includes a wife who has obtained the decree of divorce and who has not remarried again. Here, the character of the claimant plays an important role. If a wife is found guilty of an offense of adultery, she will not be entitled to claim maintenance against the provisions of 125. If it is found that a wife has left the home of her husband without any reasonable cause, or if she is found guilty of any matrimonial offenses, she will not be allowed to claim maintenance. Also, in the case where both the spouses have decided to live separately with a mutual consent, no such maintenance under section 125 will be allowed. Okay, so that was all from my part today. Hope you could understand this chapter of maintenance, a small topic of maintenance. Hope I was able to deliver some knowledge to you. Thank you. Keep supporting. Thank you.